In my Polish family, on Christmas Day, we would be fasting. We would not eat food until the first star was visible in the sky. And when we would break fast, we would not be allowed to have meat. We would only have fish and seafood. And before that, we would break and share something called in Polish opłatki, Christmas wafers, as a remembrance for Jesus. Then my parents would go to church, or at the very least, turn on the TV and watch the live ceremony from the Vatican. After doing some research, I found out that some Christians even used to fast for a whole month before Christmas, and the rules would vary depending on the church, for the food they were allowed or not. Today, I wanted to explore a topic which may make some people very uncomfortable. Why is that some Muslims in Europe and North America celebrate Christmas? So no judgment here. I'm not here to say this is good, this is bad. I want to understand why is that people do that. And by celebrating, I don't mean something like my family did. It doesn't mean fasting, praying, and remembering the arrival of Jesus, peace be upon him. It has nothing to do with religion. When I say celebrate, I mean the consumerist, modern form that we have now in Europe, which is completely disconnected from religion. Christmas tree, exchanging presents, Christmas jumpers, and more. The easy answer, if you've been following this channel, is because of colonization. Back during colonial times, researchers have observed how is that colonized people would adopt the cultural norms, the behavior, the language, the appearance of the colonizers for many different reasons. Sometimes it could be for survival. And this is a concept, Homi Bhabha, called mimicry. So people would adopt these cultural norms to just be like a chameleon, being safe in this very difficult environment. Some other people would completely embrace and adopt the colonizer's identity, and this is something Frantz Fanon has called as people wearing white masks over their brown or black skins, adopting the colonizer's identity to feel a sense of validity in the society. But then you would say, can Muslims in the 21st century be colonial subjects? To this, Professor in psychology Hussein Bulhan replies yes, and it has a name. It is called meta-colonization. Although geographic empires are no more, they still have a very strong influence in many domains of life onto the people who are not only descendants of colonizers, but usually people who are at the margin of the society. And it can be, for example, someone from Europe traveling and settling in Britain, just like myself, adopting slowly the language, the customs, and the cultural norms of the host country. And this at the cost or the sacrifice of their own culture, traditions, moral compass, identity, and more. But that's the easy answer. Of course it is colonization. So this is on a macroscopic perspective. The question is, why then, on an individual level, is that people adopt the colonial cultural norms? In my interviews of people celebrating Christmas as Muslims, they know that the modern Anglo-Saxon way of celebrating Christmas doesn't make any logical sense. And this is because Christmas in the US, in the UK specifically, is first and foremost an economic celebration, loosely based on some pagan tradition and a nice Christian story. And this is called syncretism, when you blend different traditions which don't have much to do with each other to make something new. Other examples of syncretism is, for example, in South Asian Muslim weddings, people adopting Hindu customs, or something which has to do with beliefs, for example, the worshipping of the saints in Christian culture and some Muslim cultures as well. So an economic celebration, and this is because during the post-industrial revolution era, Christmas has taken a very different meaning from its Christian and pagan roots. It is an interruption of the work routine, the industrial work routine. It is an exceptional day or period of time where workers were allowed to do things which were ordinary, impossible, taking a break, enjoying nice food, receiving and gifting presents, or just spending the money they have earned the very hard way. So Christmas is an interruption, an exception, a hyphen. It is a suspension, and this is why you'll often hear the expression, the magic of Christmas, because literally Christmas is when extraordinary things happen, which are outside of the ordinary. So why the Christmas tree? You probably know by then it is a pagan tradition. The first recorded use of a fir tree for Christmas was in Germany in the 16th century by Lutherans. And this is because tree worshipping was very common in Scandinavian countries before Christianity, and when people converted to Christianity, they have kept the tradition with them. People used to display branches of evergreen plants on the house, on the barn, somewhere on the farm to repel devils. And this coincided with, because people relied on the astral calendar, with the winter solstice, so the shortest day in the year. It is only in 1982 that John Paul II introduced the Christmas tree tradition in the Vatican. So this is where the Christmas tree comes from. What about sharing presents? You probably know that according to historical records, Jesus was likely born in January, and a few days after his birth, this is where he was allegedly visited by 3 kings who offered him presents. In the early Christian celebrations of Christmas, there wouldn't be any presents exchange. In my grandparents' generation, the presents were for the 6th of December, for Mikołaj, so Saint Nicholas Day, basically. And this would be for kids, not adults, which leads us to the topic of Santa. Santa was originally loosely based on how people imagined Saint Nicholas to be. And actually, Santa Claus comes from the German Klaus, which is the short for Niklaus, Nicholas. But the current representation of Santa that we have comes from 1931 Coca-Cola adverts. So you understand, it's a complete mess.
We have Santa Claus.
But where does it come that people have linked Christmas with values such as love, kindness, generosity, and have produced in popular culture lots of these feel-good stories that people used to watch together as a family for Christmas? Because we also like to believe that Christmas is that time of the year where everyone comes together and conflicts are magically resolved or suspended and class barriers are abolished. But the reality is, things like poverty, they don't take a break for Christmas. They don't have this interruption. People still die on the streets because of the cold, because they cannot afford food. And ask yourself, what family in Europe or North America would for Christmas open their doors and use their house as a shelter for homeless people, for example? And this is when you understand that the interruption that is Christmas only works if you are a valid economic actor in the first place. How does it even make sense? Why should it be a single day out of 365 which would be specifically designed for reminding us of love, generosity, will come together? And that is because of modernity. Modernity, as Turan describes it, a culture of separation. We like to put things in compartments, in boxes. There is time for work and time for a break. There is time for selfishness and time for generosity. And Christmas shall be that day. Everything is in compartments and cannot overlap, except if you are writing a Hollywood feel-good movie. At home, and I mean in our home, we don't wait for a special day to share gifts, or, treat ourselves with nice food, say kind words. This is something we try to implement on a daily basis. On a personal level, you also know that it's better to spread your dopamine hits, your rewards throughout the year, throughout the day, than, being abstinent for a whole year and splashing everything on a single day. Like so many people here in New Year, it's crazy. They get drunk. You never see that in continental Europe. These feel-good narratives bear a strong symbolic capital. And if you've been following this channel, you know the power of symbols. These things that don't necessarily make sense on a logical point of view, but everyone believes in them. Because everyday life in the modern society is violent towards people. It is violent on bodies, it is violent on people's mental health, it is violent on people's well-being. So people want naturally to forget about all this just at least for a day. And this symbolic capital of Christmas is enforced culturally and socially in countries like the UK, where you would see any supermarkets for a whole month all day long blasting all these nostalgic Christmas songs, supermarket staff wearing Christmas jumpers, you have random choirs of people popping out on the streets, you have street lights, special offers, of course, consumerism. Schools make kids do special things for Christmas. So people are very subtly, or less subtly, pressured to believe that, yes, Christmas is a big deal, it's a big thing. But you know how we call all this? It is social performance. Which leads us to the question, why is that certain Muslims here in the UK and the US celebrate Christmas? First, you need to take into consideration the symbolic power of Christmas. It is about all these really nice values, these feel-good stories. And the biggest illusion is making us believe that every single person around us cares about Christmas. Just make an experiment. Think about any kind of ordinary action and associate it with Christmas and see how people respond to that. If we think about a kid not eating his dessert, if you say, he didn't eat his dessert last night, so people would think, oh, maybe he was full, maybe he didn't fancy a sweet thing. But if you say he didn't eat his Christmas dessert, oh my God, the offense, how dare he? Again, someone not visiting his parents. Let's say something like, oh, he didn't visit his parents last year. And you would be automatically tempted to make excuses for him. Or maybe he was busy with work, maybe he lives far away, it's hard for him to afford a ticket. But if you say he didn't visit his parents for Christmas, oh my God, the offense! How dare he? You get what I'm getting. And this is for you, the magic of symbolic capital. A second thing I can think of is social pressure. Remember, Christmas is a social performance. And I refer to Solomon Asch's experiments on group pressure. If every single person around you think or say something, even if it's completely wrong, it doesn't make sense, and you're the only one thinking differently, you will be inclined to submit to the group pressure and say or do the same things everyone does. Because it's human nature. We want to feel we belong to something. We want to play along, just to be safe. We want to be part of those around us. And this is something very difficult to navigate for some families, because imagine you have your kids who bring you for Christmas all these nice cutouts they've made at school, and they are told to believe that, Christmas is a big thing. And then there's people who have this inferiority complex and would go an extra mile to show people that, no, look, we Muslims are like you. We do the same cheesy songs, we wear the same cheesy jumpers and so on, which comes from desperate feeling to be accepted and seen as valid citizens, which since 9/11 is completely understandable. But again, these are theories. These are, my guess. I don't know. It's very different from every single people. So I'm just generalizing and building trends from the samples I've got from my observations, my interviews. Because people are aware it doesn't make sense. And this is the same reason why now in the UK, in the US, Ramadan becomes a commercialized celebration, just like Christmas has been here in Europe and North America for decades. You see people putting on special lights, balloons, offering presents at the end of Ramadan, and you've got these relentless waves of marketing for halal or Muslim-friendly products during the Ramadan. And this is the neoliberalization of religion, when a religion is not about an ethical framework or morals or ethics and being a good person. It is only about identity, culture, consumption. Because how does that even make sense, that you have to be kind, merciful and generous just only for one single day? Seriously, why can't we introduce a little bit of special in every day? Just, for the sake of having a balanced mind. And this is what I will argue is not the magic of Christmas, but more the power of stewardship, where you try to think of how can you implement these values and these things in your daily life on a regular basis. How can I make the day of my friends, my family, my partners, my kids a bit better? For most people, hardships, they don't take days off. There's no interruption, as I mentioned. So what can we do to be there when people need it, whatever day of the year it is? So I'll leave it here. I hope it was useful. And again, take care of yourselves and each other all year round. Thank you very much.